Before we get into this episode, there's something that might be of interest that I wanted to tell you about. Scene and Heard, who run this podcast, have been asked by Scotland Food and Drink to undertake a strategic review of the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards. Now, these Excellence Awards have been going for almost 20 years and are a huge mainstay of the food and drink sector. But it's time to ensure that they're still relevant. So if you have ever been involved in the Scotland Food and Drink Excellence Awards, or even if you've ever had an opinion about them, we would love for you, please, to complete our survey. So if you go to the OnFARM Twitter, which is at @on_farm UK, and click the link in the bio, there will be a tab in there that will take you to the survey, and it should only take you a very short while to complete, but we would be enormously grateful. Welcome to our latest On Farm. I'm Anna Davis, and this is our 5th episode in association with the Royal Highland and Agricultural Society of Scotland. If you like the very best of food and drink, this one is definitely for you.
My name is Valentina and I am from Alanda. We are a small family business based in the heart of East Lothian, and we focus on producing quality products using our finest local Scottish ingredients.
My name's David Equi. I'm the owner and managing director of Equi's Ice Cream, which is based in Hamilton, has been for 98 years. And we are the reigning Royal Highland Show Ice Cream Champion of Champions.
My name is Jill Withyman. I'm the marketing manager for Angus Soft Fruits. And we breed, grow and pack berries from all around the world to ensure consistent supply of the best tasting berries for all of our customers.
Yeah, I'm Stuart Hood. I own and run Hood's Scottish Honey, based in Ormiston in East Lothian. There's nothing like the Highland. It is the pinnacle.
Today, we're asking why it matters that the Royal Highland Show showcases the best of Scottish food and drink. Who really benefits? Why does it matter? What impact does all of this have on us as consumers?
Being a part of the Royal Highland Show is really a really amazing accolade for any business, I think, any food producer in Scotland. It's just such an honour to be involved. You know, it's really difficult to be selected for it, and I think that being a part of it really shows, you know, that your business is producing something worth talking about.
You know, it's a fantastic opportunity to showcase our fruit and to meet with customers and growers, and also provides a really great platform to meet end consumers such as yourself and gain really valuable feedback on our brands and on our fruit. We see the same people year in, year out, and we've built up such a lovely rapport. It's so lovely to see the familiar faces year in, year out.
Food and drink and Scotland's Larder Live, or the food hall, as the oldies among you like myself will probably refer to it as, are definitely among the big things that hook people into the Royal Highland Show every year. They're a massive draw. You can be absolutely certain that those exhibiting and those competing are the very best that there is.
So the very first year we entered the Royal Highland Show, we won Champion of Champions it was Raspberry Cranachan. And we have won at Sens, and then this last year we won with, it was a sort of speciality. You can win with any choice of flavour. When we won in the UK Championship, it was for a vanilla, but at the Royal Highland Show we won with, it was pomegranate with ginger and elderberry.
It's a lot more to us than selling products. It's brand awareness. Some of the people that pass us, some of the business we've done, some of the contacts we've made at the Highland Show, they couldn't be replicated anywhere else. So to launch a new product, it is the place to launch it. Because also, most of the people that go to the Highland, you've got a pretty frank opinion on your new product.
We really are showcasing the best of Scotland's produce, food and drink, and manufactured and processed products.
You do set the bar. If you're truly passionate about what you do and you work super hard with it, there's no limit to how far you'll go to make your product good. Like, you'll just put your heart and soul into it and make it as best as it can be. And that's when you're like truly passionate about what you do. And I think that's what a lot of people that go to the Highland Show have in common, because everyone is super passionate about what they do and they just want it to be the best and they want to showcase that.
There was so much in those clips. We heard from Valentina from Alanda's, not just ice cream but amazing seafood. They were in the East Food Court last year for their first year as one of many food-to-go businesses, and they made a huge impact with their beautiful displays. Stuart from Hood's Honey and Jill at Barrie's, both businesses are long-standing and extremely popular food hall exhibitors. And lastly, David from Equi's Ice Cream, the Martina Navratilova of ice cream. They've won everything. It was a great snapshot. Coming up next, I've had a really good in-depth chat about all of this with two of Scotland's top food and drink experts.
I'm Wendy Barrie. My day job is producing the Scottish Food Guide and Scottish Cheese Trail. And for the Royal Highland Society, I'm delighted to be managing Scotland's Larder Live Cookery Theatre. And also I co-founded the Scottish Bread Championships at the show with Andrew Whitley. And I do a pop-up cheese tasting also within the food hall. So different remits in the different corners of the food hall.
Just briefly, then there might, heaven forbid, there might be somebody listening to this podcast who has never been to the Highland Show and never witnessed what goes on at the Cookery Theatre. Could you just very briefly describe to us what happens and kind of, if you can, slightly relive the experience?
Oh my, we have a range from first thing in the morning till tea time of hourly shows, all complementing and contrasting each other, a mix of seafood and baking and beef and vegetables. And we also have some wild cards in there. This year we would have had the Gold Award winning dinner ladies from Ayrshire, who are wonderful because, you know, that's another element. There's so many probably millions of children that eat school meals every day. That was part of the Food for Life programme, that, you know, you eat more local produce from the local farms, part of the food education like RHET does. So we tie in with TV chefs, but also very much right down to boring down to family meals with the Batch Lady as well. International stories from Mark Ayres and his celebrities he's got to make food for. Craig making food for at international customers up in Eat on the Green. I mean, I like to include an incredible range so that people keep coming back to the food hall during the day to see what chef's on.
No wonder you're always such a busy lady, Wendy. You've got a lot of plates to spin there, don't you? I'd love to move over to Charlotte. Charlotte, do you mind giving us a wee introduction about yourself, please?
Sure thing. So yes, I'm Charlotte Maberly, and I was co-founder and lecturer and programme leader for the MSc Gastronomy, which is a university programme at Queen Margaret University studying the interrelationship between food culture, economics, farming, all kinds of different aspects of food, focusing on Scotland. And I took people around Scotland on tours to experience food culture and farming firsthand. And now I'm transitioning to being an outdoor educator. I'm also still a food educator independently. And those are the things that really strike me. Those are the most important aspects of the Highland Show for me, is how it brings together the cultural and the economic and the real life experiences of farming on the land. It's a really extraordinary event.
It sure is. And Charlotte, I understand that you yourself have been a judge in one of the very famous Highland Show competitions. Is that correct?
It is. I was lucky enough to be on the panel for the Bread Awards a couple of years ago with Wendy, and it was absolutely fascinating. I have never seen such a beautiful array, a beautiful display of sourdough breads from all over the country. It was really moving, actually, to see how many people are making sourdough now and the high quality to which they're making it. And we had the terrible task of having to taste our way through the loaves, which was really wonderful, really, really good fun.
Oh, it sounds like heaven to me. I'm just not sure if I could decide whether I'd prefer to judge bread or ice cream or cheese. Actually, maybe all three of them.
Well, there were a couple of interesting things about my experience in the bread competition, judging bread competition. Firstly, I grew up in Scotland, and the notion of being able to get a sourdough loaf in the Borders where I live was just a totally alien thing. No one knew what sourdough was about, however long ago it was that I was young. Let's not talk about that. But I walked into this hall and there was this table with 98 individual loaves on it. All of them were stunning. They were all beautiful, and the smell from these sourdough loaves was just beautiful. And then I was told that I had to taste my way through 20, I think it was, with a partner, and which we did. And it was, again, just so astonishing to experience the difference between each of those 20 loaves, and then to think, well, there's going to be a difference amongst the 98 as well. It was really hard to select which one was the best. It was even difficult to, quantify the quality of each of the elements we were being asked to judge. But I don't know. I mean, the best thing that came out of that experience for me was just to see that there were so many people across Scotland now producing high quality, delicious bread, which is something I could not have imagined as a child. But now I know is a sort of standard thing. It's happening out there. People are taking pride in it. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
What was your kind of feeling? How did you feel when you were listening to those clips from some of those food producers and what they were saying?
Oh, welling up. It's such a big extended family. Everybody arrives from across the whole land. Many haven't seen each other since that time last year. Everybody works their socks off, but there's always time for good crack as well.
One of the things that came up a lot in what they were saying was that it really raises the standards, or encourages people to raise the standards of food. What they're producing, how they produce it, the recipes they use, etc., and also the sustainability of their products as well. And I think one of the reasons that is the case is because shows like the Highland Show are a unique chance for, one, producers to get together. Normally they don't have time to hang out with one another and chat and compare notes and see what one another are doing, but also for them to meet face to face with the public. And that's actually a really key part of this, because, they get feedback directly from people tasting their products, and they figure out how to improve it right there on the spot.
Yes. And in fact, so many people have said that who we've spoken to have said, the customers at the Highland Show are really quite honest, and that honesty is great for product development, because you can't improve your product unless you know what the end customer wants to be tasting. And Wendy, you've touched on it already, the fact that the Highland Show is just this wonderful balance between commercial reality. People and businesses are there because they need to make money, they need to make sales. But there's also the wonderful aspect of seeing other producers and having the social thing. I know Stuart from Hood's Honey said, he sees the same customers year after year and has great chats with them. So how, within the cookery theatre that you run and manage, how do you manage to balance that, giving the customers what they want and making it a wonderful showcase, but also recognising the commercial reality for the producers who are nearby in the food hall?
Well, within the theatre, we have a completely unique situation in that the chefs give their time. And I say that the chefs and the cooks are the heroes and the champions, and the food is the celebrity. The produce is the celebrity, because there isn't one of the chefs or cooks that doesn't give up their time, that hasn't won an award in their field. And yet they're giving their time. They love coming and doing the Highland Show. And so I ensure that there are people that are comfortable on stage, that they are driven by their local produce, and that we get a fair coverage across Scotland. So any year I've got about 20 chefs with about 7 programmes over the 4 days. And they quite often link in with their suppliers, especially if they know they've got a stand in the food hall, so that we get that fantastic matrix of the chefs who are not just, popping off a plane and, paying lip service and, shaking the odd hand. They know when the food is harvested, they know where it's being produced, and they can talk from their heart because they know exactly who they're talking about. So it's a very powerful message, a very honest message. They are so happy to be promoting the producers as well. So it's a wonderful synergy.
We'll come back to that chat with Wendy and Charlotte shortly. Now, though, we're going to spend some time with another of those hard-working producers and a Highland Show regular and one of the most popular food-to-go caterers on site.
I'm Steve Mitchell from the Buffalo Farm in Fife. I used to be able to call myself a farmer. I would say I'm now more office-bound and running the business, but the farm is still very much the focal point of all that we do.
I think I could hear some beautiful bird song in the background, actually, so that's perfect for this.
I've got them well trained round here.
Got them primed, ready. Oh, quite right.
So I'm surrounded by the animals of Bog Lily. We've got a couple of buffalo in the field in front. We've got our extremely popular pygmy goats beside us as well, and then you'll hear the odd duck and chicken, and then our extremely noisy turkeys. We'd like people to feel that they're getting a wee sense of coming to the farm when they come and collect their orders from here. So that's what these animals are, mostly here is attractions and just for interest, and us doing a little bit to try and educate the public. I also have to admit the pygmy goats are extremely cute, so I'm a bit of a softie. They were bought for my wife as a present, and it was meant to be 2, and somehow we have about 22 now, but they're a lot of fun, and it actually really big help to us here in terms of entertaining the public and keeping people interested to come back.
You actually catered for my 30th birthday party, which was
a couple of years ago.
More than a decade. Yeah, just a couple of years ago. Thank you, Steve. What a gentleman.
I would love to say there was great wisdom in how we got involved with event catering. The truth was it was out of necessity at the beginning in terms of that we were trying to value add and make, that was the way that I established as giving us the greatest return for what limited meat we had at that stage. As we did that, we also learned that it wasn't just about potentially making more profit on that from that specific animal, but also a really good marketing opportunity and a great way for us to showcase ourselves and get more people to try our products and become familiar with our brand and stuff. So we look at the catering not just as the fact that we want to run a profitable business, but also we do see it as part of our marketing strategy.
Yeah, I understand completely, because everybody who comes along and sees the Buffalo Farm branding and understands who you are and the authenticity of what you do is then hopefully going to become a long-term customer. Yeah,
and I hope that there's maybe 2 sides to that. So if I was an event organiser like the Highland Show, etc., they look at that and think, well, it's quite a good idea to have this guy. One, he's got food with a bit of a story, but also, we're going to really look after the customer on the day, because we're hoping that they're going to become customers for our online or visit our shops, So that's certainly the point I try to put across. If there's any event organisers listening, that's always that's my pitch.
Having said all that, why do you think it is so important then that the Highland Show presents this pinnacle of quality produce to the consumer?
It's just our chance to let the general public see what, I class myself as part of the agricultural industry and what, I've been involved with this farming life, and it really demonstrates the diverseness of our agricultural industry and the fact that there is, there's so many different styles of businesses out there, and I think that's good for the general public to sort of realise. I talk a lot about food not only having to taste good and be tender and all that, but actually people are enjoying actually talking about their food and getting a sense of where it's from, and that person or the people behind producing that brings an extra layer of satisfaction to that enjoyment,
The story is key, and people, particularly at the moment, which we'll come on to, people are really supportive of and interested and place great importance on the provenance and the story behind what they're eating.
Yeah, we hope so, and it's certainly what we've kind of built our business around is that and creating that story. And I have to be honest, at times we're getting closer, but so far my farm has never been profitable. The actual farming part of what we do, we've had to go out and do these things to find the profit, and to make it sustainable. But if you were to look at my business just as from an accountancy point of view, you would say you'd be better off not farming these, buying them in and doing this and doing that. But we could never do that, because then we lost our story, and the story is so important to my customers and myself. That we are genuine about what we produce and how we go about it.
Now you obviously have a shop as well, so you'll be retailing other products that don't fit within the meat sector. So presumably oat cakes, vegetables, things like that. So thinking from a wider sort of food and drink industry perspective, what impact do you think the Highland Show has on that and the quality of our produce? Is that the turkey in the background?
It is, yes. It's one of our
brilliant
Boglilly mascots here. Our talking turkeys.
Oh, I love it.
And also a delivery lorry coming in. So yeah, there's all happening here in the car park.
It's good. We wanted lots of activity, so we've got it. That's brilliant. Thinking about the wider industry, so whether it be oatcakes or cheese or soft fruits, how do you think the Highland Show benefits the wider food and drink industry in Scotland and its reputation? Well,
it's a fantastic platform. There's just so much, I would say food is a huge percentage of what attracts me to the show. You're able to go, it's a great springboard for new businesses to taste and really look your customer in the face and see what their reactions are to certain products.
Yeah.
That kind of on the spot feedback is really critical when you're developing products and you're wanting to see what's working and what so it's a great opportunity for you to do that. And to the one that jumps out at me from the last Highland Show is the broccoli crisps, and that
yes, they're brilliant,
absolutely delicious. And that's was a business there that was taking an opportunity to come and hand out a lot of samples but get a lot of feedback, and then that filters down the food chain, because we now sell these crisps in our farm shop, and the people have been familiar with it and they've done the marketing. So it's giving a roadmap for these new startups and different things that they can really go and there's a lot of buyers appear at these things as well. We've made a lot of connections, different people, they are all there. If you've got a good product, the buyers will suss you out, and it's a great platform for that,
for them to find you.
For them to find you or become aware of you, and then you're on their radar. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean the Highland Show has become our most important event weekend of the year. It's unrivaled for us in terms of the fact that it's 4 days, very consistent days, busy from morning till tea time, and every year we meet new people who become fans of the Buffalo Farm and what we do. And I think that no other event are they so interested. There's so many questions, and it's this huge booster, or kind of, I guess, my ego to an extent, because there's a lot of genuine interest and want of information, and that means a lot to me that people care, and I think a lot of people care at the Highland Show, and it motivates me to go on and keep trying to improve our business.
Well, you're a busy man, Steve. So what I think is my final question.
Okay.
You touched earlier on about, developing your business. Now, in the last 12 or so weeks, you have had to develop your business probably in a way that you weren't anticipating. Can you tell us a little bit about how COVID-19's impacted on you and some of the things that you'll be doing instead of the events that you would normally, like the Highland Show, that you would normally be at?
Well, yeah, I mean, when it all unravelled, I very much, like many people, really feared for our future. We were basically, the day of lockdown was the day we were meant to start construction of our mozzarella factory, and I'd already seen the Highland Show cancelled and the Fife Show cancelled and a great many other events that we were going to be going to. And as I said in the start of this, the events side has always been the most profitable side of our business, so it really concerned me. But we are actually a very positive story from COVID. We were fortunate. The traffic on our website, I think, is something like 600% more than it was when pre-COVID.
My word.
The truth is, our business is busier than it's ever been right now. We've not furloughed anybody. They've all been redeployed into helping out the butchers, into getting these orders out, and the staff have been incredibly supportive of the business and done what was needed to so they've been willing to be flexible, and we've ended up with a back shift and a night shift and a day shift, so we're keeping them apart, and we're kind of trying to do the social distancing.
Yes.
But
gosh, wow.
All of a sudden, we're because we're all focused on one thing, our throughput's gone up, and we've actually ended up having to employ. So we've over this period ended up taking on an additional 16 members of staff.
Goodness me!
Crazy. So
yeah,
I got a real fright when we counted up the numbers of this new rota system we're working and realised that we've got 62 staff working within the Buffalo Farm now.
My goodness.
So it's come a long way since I was cooking at your 30th birthday a couple of years ago.
It certainly has. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, you move fast, Steve.
Really
just
fast,
like my age
really
moves
fast.
slow.
The big thing is people are just actually getting really excited about cooking food again, and I really hope, I don't want to sound, we have been really lucky, but I'm really aware and care about a lot of businesses that are finding this whole situation absolutely terrible, and I totally get that. But for us, if we can see a positive, is that I've never seen people taking such a pride in their cooking, and our Facebook is littered with photographs and recipes of what they've been getting up to at home, and it's really uplifting to see that. Hopefully, and I do sense from listening to the customers that they've realised it's actually so much nicer, and it's cooking maybe doesn't actually take as much time as they thought, and it's actually quite satisfying, and the family is healthier, and they see what's all going into their dishes. So if the legacy can be that, I'll be really, really happy,
Fabulous. There's only one thing that's worrying me though, Steve. If you've had such great success with the retail home deliveries market, I hope you will still be back at the Highland Show next year to give me a burger.
I'm hoping I'm back I'm hoping I'm going to be coming back, and I'm going to be the new boy in the food hall with my mozzarella. That's what I'm really hoping.
Good. Many, many thanks to Steve at the Buffalo Farm. It's great to hear those outdoor sounds, especially the turkey. And good luck, really good luck to him getting his mozzarella enterprise started. I really can't wait to taste it. Steve talked about the importance of his brand story to connect with consumers, and I think that's really, really important here. The Highland Show is a place to shout about those stories. Why is it so important? We're going to go back now to Wendy and Charlotte.
It's absolutely vital. The story of food is always it's always a vital part of our physical experience of it. It gives greater meaning to it. It makes it more pleasurable. But I think particularly now, in the time that we're living in, the story of food and meeting the producer, really getting an understanding of how they produce the food, how food is prepared. This is something that people really crave nowadays as our lives become more and more distant from the places where food is produced. Even in Scotland, which is predominantly rural country, the majority of us are actually vastly distanced from the reality of food production. And I think places like the Royal Highland Show, country shows in general, it's becoming an increasingly vital way for people to have that direct connection, to actually see the faces and the hands responsible for producing their food, as well as the individual nutrients that go into food. The way that food nourishes us is in the story that we consume along with the food. It can transform what might be a very, balanced meal into something that really makes you happy. And it has been shown over and over and over again that our health and our well-being is, yes, it's, to do with exercise and the nutrients that you consume, but it's also to do with your mental and emotional state. And food has an amazing ability to transform your emotional state from being whatever into really, really happy, feeling comforted, feeling connected, feeling a sense of conviviality with the people you're eating with, or if you're not able to eat with somebody because you're isolating, at least some sense of connection to the people who brought that food to you.
Yeah, wow. Yes, that was a pretty comprehensive summary, and I agree with every word. Wendy, I noticed you were kind of nodding in agreement on our Zoom call there. Have you got anything to add to that, do you think?
No, I do agree entirely. I also would like to add that from a nutrition point of view, I think there's been quite a lot of raised awareness that we're in a better shape to fight off viruses if we are well nourished on good food. And so I think people have been reevaluating some of the proverbial in their diet and realising that in the process of cooking more, they're using less processed foods, which all ties in very nicely to the Scottish food and farming sector and food producers, because we are what we eat.
And interestingly, when we did the very first episode of this podcast with the Highland Society, Alan Laidlaw, who's the chief executive, said that people are engaging with local producers and local food more since COVID-19 than perhaps they ever have in the last 30 years. There's this hunger, excuse the pun, for local quality artisan produce. And part of it is no doubt the fact that, you know, we're constrained. We can't go to the shops any longer and we need and want delivery. But part of it is about feeling that camaraderie and that we're all in this together and we all want to support local business. Wendy, I know you were telling me earlier that the way in which you and some of the other chefs, like Neil Forbes, for example, who do demonstrations at the Cookery Theatre, have had to find new ways of doing things since lockdown. Can you tell me a bit about what some of you have been up to? Yes, well, both Neil and I and a few of the others are Slow Food Chefs Alliance, Cooks Alliance members. So with our sort of slow food hat, we've been asked to do some video clips for cooking. And right now I should be at a conference in Galway, which would have been rather lovely, and doing a presentation about sheep. So they asked if I would do a video just so that there was something happening in the meantime. And it's lovely for all of us to be out there contributing in some way, because so many restaurants, well, all restaurants are closed and some are doing takeaways, and it's just so lovely to see each other and support each other. So there's quite a few of us that have been doing video clips for various clients and just out there sharing some of our experiences. And I must say, from the number of views, people seem to be really enjoying seeing a little bit of inspiration for what to do in the kitchen, and some live cooking and some tips. So it's great that we have the opportunities with the internet to do these things. It's not a substitute, but it is good fun. It is. It does create opportunity where perhaps 10 years ago there wasn't any. So. Yes, I agree that we're in a far better situation than we could have been. Charlotte, coming back to you again, Wendy and her amazing bunch of chefs. I don't know, what do you call a collective of chefs? It's not a bunch, it must be something. But her amazing bunch of chefs, bunch of friends, put on these fantastic demonstrations in the Cookery Theatre, and then the competitions are showcasing the very best of the best. And Charlotte, what do you think that benchmark means from a consumer perspective? The fact that the show is really demonstrating the creme de la creme.
Ultimately, it's always to do with awareness. For the average person, they'll go to the same shops every day, maybe the same cafes, maybe even a couple of restaurants that are their favourites. When they go to somewhere like the Highland Show, suddenly their perspective is broadened massively. They suddenly get to see, oh wow, there's a lot more out there than I thought there was. So they're getting a lot of inspiration, a much greater sense of the quality of ingredients they could source themselves, kinds of recipes they could try themselves at home. And it's a very positive, uplifting thing to see such high quality in the food world.
If we were to let's take cheese for an example. Wendy, do you think that the very fact that there is a cheese competition, which is extremely prestigious, the very fact that there are also really top quality cheese producers in the food hall, do you think that makes the rest of the cheese industry, people who are not involved at the Highland Show, certainly yet, do you think that brings their standard up and gives them something to aim for and almost makes them pull their socks up and think about what they're trying to do? I think so, yes, I do. But I think even more, there's inevitably always in any country, there'll be a sort of average food producers that don't think they need to up it. They have their place in the regime. But what I think the Highland Show does is we'll pull some up by the bootstraps and we'll inspire ones that actually think, hang on, my sheep are pedigree. I could do box schemes. Why don't I do that? Or I could supply that local farmers market. Shall I get myself organised? Maybe I should get a website. And I think I come across people that are incredibly inspired. They actually, maybe within their small community, didn't quite realise that actually I'm doing something quite special here. It's given them a recognition and an inspiring them. And also it's fantastic to see the young farmers and the next generation being inspired by the ones that they see as mentors
and the ones that they look up to, that are doing something with their produce, with their particular lamb or with their particular smokery or whatever it happens to be. And often the older ones are very generously spirited with that as well. And they share because they're so enthusiastic about their produce. So it's very inspiring.
100%. I would agree with that. I think it is about inspiring people to do the best that they can. But there's another thing that's really important about shows like the Highland Show. It's not just about everyone raising their standards to one kind of unanimous singular definition. It's also about cross-pollination. When you get a lot of people together in a space like that, all presenting their ideas, presenting their product, presenting their journey, presenting their story, it's inevitable that in that moment, there are also going to be an exchange of stories, an exchange of experiences, which makes producers go, oh, wow, I never thought about it like that. Or, a producer might see an emerging trend amongst other cheese producers or other ice cream producers, whatever it is, and think, you know what, I don't want to go in that direction. I want to go in my own direction. I want to do something totally different. So it's not about everybody aspiring to or reaching the same standard. It's about creating more dynamic diversity in the food industry. And I think that in and of itself is raising the standard.
Yes, absolutely. So it's kind of a melting pot where you've got inspiration, but you've also got innovation and collaboration. And if you throw all that in together and mix it around, the sky is the limit.
Yeah, because actually, ultimately, it's unhelpful to think of it. I know that there are lots of competitions at the Highland Show, but it's unhelpful to think of our food system and food culture as a competition. It's not competitive. There has to be a diversity. In cheese making, for example, Wendy knows this so well, there is no best cheese. The best thing about cheese is that there are lots of different kinds, and we want each of those to express itself in the way that it can best, right? When you go to judge a competition, like I did the bread competition, I did a beer and cider competition a few years ago as well, it's really hard to choose the best one, because they're all wonderful in their own right. And I think that's something that you get from going to a show like the Highland Shows, because you see such a great diversity, so many different products, and they're all wonderful. Like you say, it's not about achieving a pinnacle, it's about expressing the diversity.
I'm very much a silver linings person. And can you think of any other silver linings that we might be seeing within the food and drink industry as a result of COVID?
I think aside from the fact that more people are looking for local suppliers of their food, there are a lot of people who want to now grow their own. And that does a few different things. One, it makes people realise how hard it is to grow food. And that's actually really important because, we tend not to know how farming works or, where our food comes from. Having that first-hand experience of trying to grow your own carrot and then having it eaten by rabbits and then, carrot fly, it makes you go, oh, wow, this is actually really quite tough. Not only that, it also requires a lot of water, a lot of my time, a lot of knowledge. It requires my soil to be good. And holy moly, there are people out there who know how to do all these things, who are doing it really effectively. If anything comes out of this, I really hope that more people will, one, appreciate what producers do, the work they go through to produce our food. But secondly, they'll be prepared to pay a little more for well-grown local food. Yeah, I think that could be a major silver lining.
Definitely, and probably not one that's the most obvious necessarily. So I'm really glad you mentioned it because I think it's hugely relevant, hugely important. I know I have suffered at the hands of hares. They massacred my entire vegetable population a couple of years ago, and I learned my lesson. And also, but myself being married to a farmer, he would probably kiss you if he heard you saying what you've just said, because it's a rewarding lifestyle, but it's a tough job to grow food. I think the more we can get people to understand how it's done and the challenges, the better it will all be, and the more people will embrace local artisan and quality product if they understand what goes into it.
Absolutely. Just to add to that as well, I know that there's been a massive craze across the UK to turn towards baking your own bread. you know, that's another thing that when you try and do it yourself, you realise that anyone can bake a loaf of bread, absolutely, but to bake a really good loaf of bread, you need some expertise. Bread is one of those things that in the UK we've got so used to paying nothing for a loaf of bread. But actually it really does take time and good flour, and you know, you don't know that and you don't fully understand it until you've made your own loaf.
And if you have got a taste for your local lamb or beef or your local cheese, you can never go back to the mass-produced stuff again.
That's very true. That's very true. Thank you. This has been really enjoyable, interesting, educational, this conversation. I really appreciate both of you joining me, Wendy and Charlotte, for giving us your time. And thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely a pleasure, and really lovely to have a chat about that incredible event with you both.
Thank you also to Steve Mitchell at the Buffalo Farm. Thank you for listening and being with us for another OnFARM episode. We look forward to seeing you next time. We're going to finish up now with a second round of these fantastic producers we heard from at the start of the episode. David from Equi's Ice Cream, Stuart from Hood's Honey, Jill Witherman from Ava Berries, and Valentina from Alanda's Seafood and Ice Cream.
It does feel that there's something missing. Within a day of winning it last year, we had all the videos up on big screens in our own gelateria, and you know, it was shots of the trophy, and I was over celebrating apparently when we picked the trophy up this year.
A huge amount of effort goes into it. I can't even explain really. You know, it's actually funny because we joke about it, like amongst ourselves. We're like, if we told people like what we actually do in order to set all this up and make it happen, they would just be like, you're mad. So yeah, huge amount of prep work goes into making it all, because everything's fresh. Even like our lobster rolls, like we like buy whole lobsters, we like de-shell them, chop them up, and then we make like our own dressing that goes through that. So yeah.
We're still producing fruit, the best quality fruit, but we have had to rethink, in terms of marketing, rethink our entire marketing plans for the summer. We're actually running an alternative Wimbledon event where over 2,500 lucky Scottish homes shall receive a punnet of our Ava Berries. So that's our alternative experiential activity, whereas we would normally have the Royal Highland Show.
Yeah, when you're on a small family business, you don't get any choice. You kind of sit back. And our whole driving force, of course, is the bees. We have to just keep going constantly. The diversification's worked fantastically well. At weekends, if they're East Lothian people, they go and get their birthday presents delivered by us by hand on the day of their birthday. And some days here in East Lothian, we've delivered a 21st, a 40th, a 50th and a 90th in the same day. And that brings some joy to people who are struggling, who are suffering. But also it gives us a bit of a kick as well, that we can do a small amount to help.
Stuff like the Edinburgh Festival, we had all sorts of things lined up for that this year, but I think that's all gone. And we're also moving to a new production unit at the moment in Rutherglen. We're in the midst of doing that, so we picked the worst time to be moving factory. But I put things in perspective. My daughter is a doctor. She phones me all the time, and it just, you know, when you hear the things that she has to work through, you know, the fact people's health is the most important thing.